Dustin, let's go through our assessment of these foes. Okay,
Okay.
so we got some questions. We're going to do some ranking here of these teams. So the first one, football related. All right, we realize we're getting these schools for the conference, and they're going to be playing a lot of sports. Of course, the main ones that we talk about here are football, basketball, and then a little baseball sprinkled in. But the first and foremost thing is football wise, we're going to have some new teams, some new blood coming to the Jones. So, Dustin, rank your let's start off at four here. What is the fourth
Okay.
team out of those four that you're excited about coming to Lubbock for football season? Number four.
Football was really, really hard for me.
Was
Basketball
it?
was a little easier to rank. Yeah,
Football
football
was
was a little
easy.
harder because I kind of like all of them.
Right.
And so that's why I was like, I don't know.
Right.
Like
We'll
UCF.
clarify to the podcasts that are joining us if you're listening to this. We are more excited about seeing y'all come to Lubbock than like any of the other Big 12 schools because we've seen them
Yeah.
regular. So if
Yeah.
you're fourth on this, it's no shade. We're still very excited.
I'll tell you this. I'm more excited for any four of these teams than like when Iowa State comes into
Oh
it.
yeah,
Or Kansas State.
Yeah,
So they're above them too already.
Kansas
Kansas.
football. Like, are you kidding me?
They're above all those. Um, Fourth, and like I said, fourth's not in a bad spot for football because I said I like all of them. I think I'm just going to go UCF just because they've slipped. They've not slipped, but like they're not where they were like, I don't know, what, 5 years ago when they were burning down the group of five to get into the playoff. And they've gone through one coaching change, but they're still like pretty solid. But I'm going to put them at four just because I see a little more potential out of these other three.
All right, this was my easiest one, and I went with Houston just because we're familiar with them. They're going to be in Lubbock this year. They've been in
Okay.
Lubbock before, and so it's not anything new to have Houston on the schedule. And so for me, it was
Gotcha.
just kind of an easy like four. Like we'll still be excited because of things we'll talk about with Houston later on, but it'll still be exciting to have them come around here more often. But
Gotcha.
we're just
Makes
already
sense.
familiar with them, so it doesn't bring anything
Okay.
towards me. For my number three, I went with UCF,
Right.
and kind of similar reasons to you. There's just they're a fun team, fun offense. They've been relevant for a while, but like you said, they're kind of having some down years compared to those really good years where they were like undefeated and claiming their own national championships and stuff like that. But hey, to have UCF come to Lubbock would be fun. So, what is your third team?
I put Houston third, kind of similar to what you said. I flip flop just now. You convinced me. We got a little familiarity with them,
Right.
and been there. We know their coach very well, so that's kind of fun. So, yeah, nothing crazy, but it'll mean a little more. So that'll be fun to have it mean something and go down their place often too.
Okay, so what's your number two?
Number two, I put Cincinnati.
I did as well.
All right. That's interesting that we both ended up at the same place. All right, so
Yeah.
Cincinnati, they just came off, obviously, the best group of five season
Yeah.
ever, making the playoff ever for the first time. Had a top five draft pick this last year. They were really good, really amazing. And they've been good in the past, too. So they're not like a flash in the pan type team, not hating on like UCF, but like they've been here, they've been in a big conference before as well. So they're just getting back to where they used to be. So it'll be fun to have them back with the rest of us. I like the
Yeah,
whole red and black thing. Like, I don't know.
yeah. That was the other thing is like we kind of look alike. We're kind of similar
Yeah.
colors. Tuberville, the whole Tuberville thing with we're both
That's going to get mentioned a million times
Yeah.
that week.
we're both teams that unfortunately had to deal with Tommy Tuberville. But yeah, this recent surge by them in football. I think if they weren't this good last year, they would probably maybe be below Houston to me. But the fact that they've kind of really come up here these last few years as a powerhouse, kind of made the college football playoff, that makes them more intriguing to me. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'll definitely be excited to have them come to Lubbock. And so that makes our number one BYU. So why do you got
BYU.
BYU at the top?
So I think BYU, there's a lot of potential there, is what I'm banking on.
Yeah.
Because, yes, they do have a history as well. Like, they've been a very solid program for a
Yeah.
long time. Great history in Utah. And I think there's potential regionally to kind of have a football rivalry, like
Right.
out west here with them.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we're the two loners super way out west here. And so I think there's a familiarity in, like, we're kind of way on the outside of everybody, and we can go match up with them. And I think a lot of Tech fans might travel up there just because of that too, and just to see, and they're like total opposites of us. I feel like,
Right.
I think you can get the whole good boy versus bad boy image
Right.
clashing and going against each other in this as well. Same with like fan bases. Like, I think that kind of all plays. I think there's a lot of potential and upside with BYU.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think they're a school that's kind of been waiting to be in a conference for a long time to have these kind of conference rivalries build up. Now they have their fair share of rivalries that they like Utah and some of those stuff, and Baylor kind of looks like it could be a potential rivalry for them. But yeah, excited to have them in the
religious war there.
Yeah, excited to have them in the conference. Their colors, that blue on those helmets and jerseys, really pop. So that'll be fun to see in the Jones. But yeah, just all the history and everything with that university. Like you said, it's kind of opposite of us, but it's fun to. It'll be fun to have them come to the Jones. So that's why I got them at number 1. And really, we don't have much history with BYU at all either. So. It's just kind of like
clean, fresh. I like it.
Start new, a new school to hopefully beat up on, or have a fun, friendly rivalry. So let's go to the hardwood with basketball here. Kind of do the same thing because it is different for me in my rankings here. So let's start again at the 4. I'll start. I've got Cincinnati at 4 on most excited to come to the United Supermarkets Arena. I got Cincinnati at 4. If their old coach was still there, I think they would be much higher for me.
Okay.
But they've kind of fallen out of relevancy here lately on the hardwood. They haven't been as competitive. They're still a tough team who's going to fight you, but I think the other teams have had more relevancy lately, and so I just kind of have to have Cincinnati at the bottom for me. What do you got at 4?
4, I have BYU. I mean, they don't pop on the basketball scale for me.
Yeah.
Haven't in years. Like UCS had a little bit, Cincinnati's had a lot, Houston lately. So like those other 3 just have more pop to them for me. So I'm not crazy about BYU basketball.
Okay. All right. So BYU is your 4. Who's your 3?
3 is UCF. Kind of similar reasons. I don't know. I think we're just so into basketball now and love the bigger, better schools and matchups. Like UCF doesn't make me crazy just yet, so I just have them 3. Like I said, basketball is a little easier for me to rank and pick.
Yeah, I've got BYU at 3. Kind of like you said, basketball-wise, I mean, they've made the tournament a couple times over the last few years. They've been a relatively competitive basketball team, but at the same time, there's nothing really about them it's going to be fun to have them come in, but I'm not going to be as gung-ho about that as maybe some other like already Big 12 conference foes like a Baylor, Kansas, and stuff like that. So that's kind of why I've got BYU back there, and then I got UCF at number 2, who's been also kind of a lot of these basketball teams are very similar in that like they've been competitive a couple years and then they've had some down years. UCF's like most recent, they had Taco Fall, of course, which was fun. But other than that, they haven't been like super relevant in basketball either. And so between the 3, like Cincinnati, BYU, and UCF, I don't really think there's much of a difference. So that's what I got for number 2. What about you?
I got Cincinnati there based off their history. They always had a back and forth kind of good off and on program. Yeah, they have a different coach, but like I said, they have potential to get back to that big school and like always had good potential there. So I'm excited for them to be back in there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so our number 1, this was a layup for me, Houston.
Slam dunk.
Yeah, slam. Why do you got them at number 1?
Man, Houston's really jumped on the scene with Kelvin Sampson the last few years. So they're really good. They've reloaded this year. They're going to be good again. And so them being good 2-3 years in a row and then leading into next year to the Big 12, they're just going to stay relevant. So they'll be good again coming in next year. So that'll be just fun to them. And, of course, you had Kyle Edwards transferring down there last year, so there's a little small basketball history recently involved as well.
Yeah, and Malik Wilson going down there for this year. So you've had a
Oh
couple
yeah, I forgot that.
Tech people transfer over there. But yeah, they've been one of the best basketball programs in the country over the last 3 to 5 years. They're going to be really good this year with some players coming back that got hurt last year. So yeah, this is kind of addition by subtraction with our conference in basketball, right? You lose Texas and Oklahoma, who have kind of been middle of the pack here for the last few years, and you add in Houston, who's been at the top of college basketball. And I'm excited to see them in the conference, really just to see what they look like once they actually have to play like tough teams every single game. And it's not like cakewalk on Saturday, and then you might have one tough game every other week. But this one is like every game's a battle. And so I'm excited to see what that looks like. And I'll be really pumped to have them come in to Lubbock and play them on a Saturday or a Monday night or something like that. So definitely have Houston up there. Okay, let's move on to rivals, Dustin.
Whoa.
Most likely rivals, and we'll start at 4 again. Who do you got as your least likely to become a rival out of these 4?
I got number 4, UCF. Mostly, kind of went location based with this one. They're going to be our furthest one away, and so that's just gonna, I don't know, not going to be as crazy, I don't think. And with them not being, I don't think crazy good at basketball just yet. Like, I don't think there's enough there to spark anything.
Yeah, I agree. Too far away.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be really far away from everybody, but I think they're going to be more likely to be rivals.
I think them and West Virginia can get along.
Yeah, I think that might be a fun one. I think, a couple of the teams that they're used to playing already will be obviously kind of easy rivals to have with them, but they might be an odd child here for a little while, trying to develop some rivalries, but yeah, I just don't really see anything there. So your number 3 rival.
3, I went Cincinnati.
Okay.
Same, just kind of regionally based. Even though they were super good at football, they might come in here and kick our butts for a few years. I think we got them in basketball, though. So you might just have that, maybe not as much back and forth just yet, and the distance thing. So,
Yeah, I put BYU at 3. It's one that I would kind of like to have, but I think they already have a pretty solidified rival with Utah. Baylor kind of seems like a layup of a rivalry with their little holy war, and they've also kind of been playing each other these last few years, so they've already kind of gotten familiar. So I think that's good for them. And then, it's a possibility. I would love for us to become a rivalry, but for some reason I just don't really see it happening as much as I can see, which is like my number 2, Cincinnati. Dealing with the colors, black and red makes sense. We both have that Tuberville thing. I think we're pretty similar. I think we're like pretty similar schools in what we've done, and so I think that would make sense as a rivalry for us. And location might be kind of screwy there, but none of these schools besides Houston are really close to us. So, none of these I don't think are going to compare to what some of our other Big 12 rivalries already are, but that's where I got them. So your number 2 is...
Yeah, I had BYU and Cincinnati basically flip-flop 2, 3, like interchangeable, kind of like you just did. Like I mentioned with football. I have too many to list over here.
Right.
Well, I see a lot of potential with BYU, the 2 out west teams, the whole good boy, bad boy image type thing. I think there's a good contrast there. So
yeah,
they have a good potential, like I said.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then that leads to number 1, which also on this question, kind of a layup, is Houston, which is a team that you're already familiar with in football. You played them several times over the last 10 years. Would be a fun basketball rivalry.
For sure.
And so what do you kind of expect from them? And I'll frame it this way. So heading into the new Big 12, do you see Houston where do you see them being a rival with like the other teams that we already have in the conference that we kind of are got rivalries with, like Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State? Where do you see them falling in line under those?
Yeah, I don't know if this answers your question, but I think Houston comes in as the better overall athletics program, men's wise. and with these big sports. Like football and basketball are both pretty dang good, and they're going to be able to compete at a high level right away.
And they hate.
So that gives them a leg up, and
they want
that
to beat us bad.
Yeah, like they're gonna football wise, especially they're already pissing a lot of people off because they're stealing recruits. Like they're in Texas, they're gonna steal the same recruits as Texas Tech kids, like TCU. Like no one's gonna like Houston, which is kind of fun.
You're right.
That they're gonna come in as the bad boys and no one likes them. Like BYU and UCF, everybody's going to be like, hey, y'all, come on in. Let's play a little game. Oh, when Houston goes to whatever school they're at, no, everybody hates them and wants to beat them. So I think that's kind of fun that Houston's definitely going to be hated by everybody.
Yeah, I could definitely see them rising towards, like, I think right now, my rankings of, like, teams we're probably going to be rivals with, it's like Baylor and TCU are kind of right there at the top. Oklahoma State, I would love for them to become like a huge rivalry for us. But I think Houston can fit right in there with them. It's a Texas team, a lot of familiarity with them. Dana Holgerson, Kelvin Sampson, like you said, they're still in recruits. They're not like this college that's coming in. They're just like, oh, that's cute. Like they're a legit threat now once they're in the Big 12 and they have that to use to recruit as well. And so I think for me, like, they're definitely tops of this list, but I mean, give it 5 years or so, Houston might be like my number one team. I think.
Yeah. And you have a lot of, if you ever, like, we have a lot of Texas Tech listeners and former alumni. There's a lot of Houston people that come up here to go to school. And so I think there's also that aspect to it. And I don't know how that is at other schools, but I'm always very surprised at how big the Houston population travels up to school here, with it being 8-9 hours away. And so there's also that factor. Like, you're going to have a lot of students that go down there for the game just to go back home for the weekend and then wear their red and black out.
Yeah, like, I mean, last year we played Houston and it was their home game and it was at NRG Stadium. And there was a shit ton of Texas Tech fans there for it, you know. So yeah, I think that's a definite rival that's going to be happening and going to be really fun. So let's kind of move along here. Some other fun questions we've got here. So, all right, first school you would want to travel for a game to, ranked.
I put my travel and my tailgate together because they just they matched up that way.
Okay. So let's do that. Start at 4. So the question for y'all, if y'all didn't get that, we ranked our schools that we would most want to travel to for a game, and then we ranked our schools that we would most want to go tailgate at for a game. So those kind of go hand in hand. So Dustin,
right. Yeah, some things were going hand in hand with the explanation and why to go, and that's why they matched up. My number 4 is UCF.
Okay.
Not to hate on Orlando. Great place. Been there to play some flag football once in my life. But it's a little more of a touristy type city. You don't have the college town vibe that you get like when you come to Lubbock or when you go to West Virginia, like Morgantown. I haven't been, but I've heard great stories. So I don't think there's that like vibe around UCF and Orlando.
Okay, so I went a little bit different route. I went on like more like the city and the place that I kind of would like to travel to. So 4th, I went Houston because I've been to Houston.
They're my 3rd, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't really, care that much to go to Houston to watch a football game. It's always humid and hot as fuck there. So I got Houston on my last, but my last tailgate spot is BYU.
Okay.
As my last place I want to go to tailgate because I don't really know how they get down there, and that's why we're going to have a BYU podcast on so they can, tell us what a tailgate like. Maybe it's a hell of a time. Who knows?
So I had Houston as 3rd as my travel tailgate spot.
Okay.
Partly because, familiarity. I don't care as much for the whole Houston vibe. But also, like, tailgate-wise, I have a feeling that they think they know how to tailgate, but they probably don't.
Right.
Does that make sense?
They need us there to make that tailgate legit.
Yeah. I don't think they get it.
Yeah.
I don't think they get like the whole aspect of how to do everything in a tailgate and how to do it all day long. I feel like they might do it for a few hours and then be like, all right, we're a little buzzed. Let's go to the game.
Yeah, that's one of the
You don't remember
questions. That's one of the questions I have lined up for these pods. So what's tailgating like? Like, are y'all like games at 6 p.m.? What time are y'all getting going? Like, what's that look like
If
for you
your
guys?
basketball team is in the national championship, what are the chances you're blacked out for the first half?
What are the chances you remember the game?
If your baseball team has a 6-hour rain delay.
Are you going to drink the tailgate out?
Yeah. Yeah. I think Houston would be pretty soft on the tailgate side.
Yeah, so my 3 on the tailgate was Houston, and my 3 on games I want to travel to would be Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
It's
They're my
not-
2.
I don't really-
Right.
I don't really care to go to Cincinnati, all that much. Maybe I could package it in with the Bengals game, and that would make it a little bit better, but Cincinnati isn't necessarily one of the top cities on my places to go.
I don't know. I have a feeling there's a side of Cincinnati that knows how to tailgate and get down. I just have this feeling like there's a college fun side to Cincinnati that gets down hard. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, we're the same people, I think, in the same school.
Yeah.
And I think we would get along so great.
Well, so that leads into they were my number 2 for the tailgate that I want to go to because I bet they have a hell of a time.
Yes.
And so I put them as number 2 for like a tailgate that I want to go at, and that's why I'm excited to talk to a pod from them. I'm excited to know how they get down at tailgates. But my number 2 to travel to would be BYU, just kind of because of the scenery and everything, and their stadium's awesome, and the fan base does seem pretty cool. And while it might be a completely different atmosphere, I do think it would be fun to like go see a game there, but it also would be last in my tailgating area. So that's kind of how I did these rankings. So what's your number 2?
2 was Cincinnati,
Yeah.
and number 1 is BYU.
Okay.
Because of how much of a contrast we are.
Yeah.
One, I think it'd be great to travel up there. It's a totally different environment, atmosphere, scenery. I think that'll be super cool. Getting west, and it's probably not going to be crazy fucking hot like in some of these other games and schools we go to, and we're tired of that here all the time. But like the contrast in tailgating,
Right.
like their grocery stores and liquor stores better be prepared with how much alcohol they have supplied, because we're going to buy all the Ultra you have.
That's a good answer. I put UCF because I don't really know anything about it, and it would like, hey, you can make a week out of it. You go to Disney World, and then,
if you expand it for sure.
Yeah, and so it's like cool. I can make we can make a trip out of it. Go see a game there. I bet the game would be fun, and I bet they have a good time tailgating. I don't really know anything about it. That's why I'm looking forward to having them on next week, kind of getting a vibe. But I feel like they've got to have a good time, and it's got to be nice out there to get with it.
I want to just blow BYU's minds of how drunk we can get and be functional.
They probably wouldn't want us into their games. They probably would. Go third. Get out of here.
All that I want to see how all that goes down. I think it'd be a great time.
Okay, moving on. Last ranking we have here. Predicting the most annoying new fan base to deal with on Twitter, on social media, ranked. So this will be a fun one. Podcast that we're going to interview. Sorry, but every fan base is special in their own way. So Dustin, who you got at number 4?
They should put us number 1 on their list.
Oh, they should. Yeah. I hope they ask us. I'm going to give each podcast a chance to ask us what they want to know about us and tech and stuff. And I'm like, hey, just so you know, we're annoying as fuck.
We are annoying. We get our feelings hurt real bad. We get butt hurt.
And we're usually drunk. Cheers.
We're drunk when we tweet it all the time. My number 4 is BYU. I think they're just too nice.
Yeah.
I think they're just going to be nice about everything.
I put Cincinnati. I don't know. Even when they were making that playoff run, usually some other people's Twitters will spot up, but I just put Cincinnati there. I really have no expectations. Most of this one and my number 3 to BYU, they're interchangeable there. I just don't know enough about those fan bases really to know if they're annoying. And I've heard
that's why I had UCF at 3. Because
Well,
I
I've
just
heard things about UCF, so I have.
oh hell, go ahead. Are they up there? Are we waiting for
They're
number one?
well, so they're my number one. Yeah, so I'll
Okay,
just
we'll
go
wait.
ahead.
We'll wait on your. I'll let you explain because I just
Yeah,
don't know
so
enough. I'm gonna jump ahead then and go to my number two is Cincinnati
yeah,
because they've had some basketball history of being good. I think their recent football history can grow into
Yeah.
some ego and cockiness. And so I think, especially if they have another good year this year. I know they lost a lot, but still, they reload and have a decent good year. I think that could grow and blossom into some annoyingness.
yeah. I had Houston at 2. The once again, it's the potential rivalry, potential,
Yeah.
all the familiarity we have with them. I just kind of see them becoming like a nuisance to us in a way, just because of that. And then, my number one was UCF because I have heard things. Levitard show has talked about how like bad UCF fans are. I've seen like Houston, Cincinnati, like some of these other schools were part of their conference being like, "Good luck, Big 12 fans with UCF." With UCF fans, so apparently they're these just wild, obnoxious fans over there on Twitter.
Sweet.
So they could be number one, just an annoyance because, like, we don't hate you or whatever. They feel like they could be very similar to us on Twitter. Is why I have them up.
Sweet. I'm excited for that then. See, I had Houston at 1 because
Yeah.
I think they're going to come in here and think, oh, we're big bad Houston. We've been good at everything for so long. For like the last 5 years, we should have been here already. And like acting like this is the thing they have been doing or should have been doing for the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, pump your brakes. Yeah, you might be a little good, but hey,
Sit down.
you gotta go. You gotta play 5 straight top 20 games in the
Yeah.
next 2 weeks. To talk to me when you get out of that stretch.
But they think they're all big bad, and then they lose to us in football, and we're not even like good. like, like
You're like, congratulate, pat on the back, bud.
we beat them 4 straight times. Like we beat them last year. We went 6-6, and that was
Yeah,
their
and they
whole-
only lost like 2 games, and we were horrible.
It's like, all right,
They
even
were
when
really
you're
good.
your best, you're just at our level, which isn't even good. Like Cliff dominated them, and we hate Cliff.
We stuck with Cliff.
So
We need to do that game with the Big 12 teams currently because I hadn't thought about it before. Maybe next week we can slide that in if we don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, we've got some
We're in one
time.
of these off weeks when we don't have anything. We'll
Yeah.
rank Big 12 fan base Twitters.
yeah, we've got some summertime when we're not interviewing other podcasts that we just called potentially
Yeah.
annoying. But yeah, looking forward to having them on. And so last question here. First school you think will play in a conference championship game, and we'll start with football. Dustin, out of these 4, who's your most likely candidate?
This was kind of hard.
Yeah, that's why I liked it.
I mean, Cincinnati, you have the recency bias them making the college football playoff, but they got to reload.
Yeah.
And they didn't fare well against Alabama. I mean, no Big 12 school would have either. So I don't know how much you can really compare there.
Yeah.
Houston in basketball, I think, can hang. And so that's probably the easiest answer to go with is Houston basketball. But really, I don't know. Like Houston basketball, I don't trust Houston football just because of Dana Holgorsen.
Yeah.
And
So I
maybe
think-
Cincinnati football if they can bounce back pretty solid.
Yeah, so I picked Cincinnati football as well. Like you, it's kind of, hey, what did they do this year, right? They lost their quarterback. They lost some of their good players that were on that squad that built up to that, right? They were good last year, or good before they made the college playoffs. Can they sustain that? And then I think they'll be like a legitimate contender, honestly, as soon as they arrive. Basketball for me is Houston. Obviously, they're the best basketball school out of all of those coming in, and I think they're going to compete right from the start and have a shot at maybe not winning the regular season title right away, but they're a team that you're not going to want to see in the Big 12